I want to get your immediate reaction to Bill Belichick abandoning the NFL, or maybe the NFL abandoning him, and taking up residence at Chapel Hill.
Stunned. I'm absolutely stunned that this is happening, that this has happened. And Mike, I think it is a bigger surprise than Belichick leaving New England, because you could see that coming. You know, they said it was a mutual parting of the ways, but he was fired in New England in January of this year. And so if you had told me in January, hey, Bill Belichick's next stop, it's going to happen in this calendar year, and it's going to be at Chapel Hill. He's going to be the head coach of the University of North Carolina. I would have thought you were nuts. This is unbelievable because of who Belichick has been since he left Wesleyan University in 1975. He has never, ever been anywhere else but the NFL, intentionally. And he said yesterday it's a dream come true. Yeah, it's a dream that, and if it is a dream, it's a dream he thought it wouldn't be realized. He didn't want to be realized because he's never taken a break. He has coached longer than anybody in the history. He's coached in the NFL consecutively longer than anybody in the history of the sport, including George Halas, Don Shula, anybody. 1975 to 2023 with no breaks. And now he's a head coach in North Carolina. I'm really stunned that it has come to this. One, for him, and then two, for other teams in the league who said, hey, he's just not the guy for us. Because, Mike, when this story first came out, I thought, okay, it's a pretty smart move from Belichick. What he's doing is trying to get the market going. He's trying to warm up the market. He's letting them know, hey, I'm available. Come talk to me. And I thought some team would back channel this thing and say, hey, no, don't go to North Carolina. We got something for you. We're going to move on from our coach. But yesterday, the actual signing and press conference, I never thought I'd see it, Mike.
Yeah, I had the same thought you did after I slept on it when it first registered last Wednesday that he was talking to North Carolina. This is his way of telling all other teams, NFL and college, if there was a bigger program out there that might have wanted him, the train is going to be leaving the station. To his surprise, everybody just kind of stood there and said, see you later. And he kept rolling. Now, I thought of something else. Several years back, when Seth Wickersham of ESPN.com had the story that got into the whole Belichick, Kraft, Brady, Garoppolo, and Gary Myers, who was covering the Giants at the time and had for a long time, tagged that with Bill would like to coach the Giants. I did a little sleuthing, and the message I took away from it was, number one, there's no way the Patriots were going to let him go. He was under contract, and they weren't going to trade him. They weren't going to cut him. They weren't going to fire him. But he ultimately wouldn't do it because it would take him 5 years, roughly, to get the Giants program to where he had gotten the Patriots program. And I think at some level, where's the spot where he walks right in, takes over, and everything's where it wants to be, where he would want it to be? There was no spot like that. So any of these other places, he'd have to go in and take multiple years to get the program where he wanted it to be, while also fending off the one aspect of the relationship that you can't control, and that's ownership. And I think that's where you realize, there's dysfunctional teams out there. You're going to have interference in what you do. The one place where you really are in charge, and the only people you answer to have other stuff to deal with. They're not NFL owners who want to win football games, and that's their focus in sports. You got an AD who's dealing with basketball. It's a basketball school, for crying out loud. You got a chancellor who's dealing with all sorts of issues. Bill had the best shot at autonomy at a college program, especially one like North Carolina, where it's not even a football school.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, personality-wise, in terms of control, college is the best place for him. But tell me what you think about this. I remember having a conversation with Belichick years ago, and you won't be surprised by this particular conversation, given how the Patriots drafted wide receivers, which is to say the opposite of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who can just wake up and draft a wide receiver and that guy can produce. The Patriots have really struggled to find actual wide receivers. They're better at converting quarterbacks to receivers than they are of actually drafting, real natural position wide receivers. So this was years ago. He said, college game is so different than the pros. He said, let's take the wide receiver position, for example. He said it's hard to evaluate those guys because in college football, in these passing games that are not necessarily sophisticated, what coaches do is they just get a great athlete in space and they let him do his thing. Or if he's out on a route, nobody's really around him. The coverage is not that sophisticated. And so you're never going to be that open in the NFL. So some of these guys who do great in college, it doesn't translate because they've never had an equivalent in college football. So you can see that the Patriots really struggled with this because they couldn't get that evaluation down. Or if they got the evaluation down, Belichick wouldn't listen. But that's a story for a different day. My point is, in college football, it's about athletes. Bill Belichick is about schemes. It's about he didn't always like all-star teams. He didn't like it. They had a sign around the facilities saying, we're not trying to collect the most talent. We're trying to build the best team. And there are many occasions over the years where the Patriots passed up what was clearly the most talented player for somebody who was a scheme fit for Belichick. I don't think college football works that way at all. I heard you and Rodney talking about, hey, schemes. He's going to get these guys ready to play. He will, but he's going to have to go against his instincts. And he's going to have to say, look, this guy's a 5-star. He's a pain in the ass, but he's a 5-star player. And we need as many 5-star players as we can if we want to win. It's not about scheme fit in college football. It's about getting the top recruiting class. And I'd be shocked, and I haven't done the study on it, Mike, but I'd be shocked in the last 20 years, champions in college football. I don't think there's been a champion in college football who's got a number 25 recruiting class or number 30. I think champions have great recruiting classes. That's the name of the game.
And that was Nick Saban's great strength in college football. He would go out and recruit 10 first-round draft picks every year to the point where scheme didn't matter. I used to say when Saban was at Alabama, they could yell out to the defense what they're going to do, yell out to the offense what the defense is going to do, and it won't matter because our guys are better than your guys. Now, that's going to be the key. And Rodney said he's already hearing from Division I players who want to go play for Belichick. The quality of the athlete is going to be critical. He will get the most out of the athlete. It has to be a guy who's highly talented, who isn't only motivated by money. Everybody's motivated by money at some level now in college football, and it's long overdue that players got paid. However they're getting paid, I am for it 100%. It's way too late. But you still have to have that. You had those guys in New England, the Teddy Bruschi's of the world, the guys who take less to be part of something more, and they embrace the Patriot way. I don't know that you can make that stick because Tom Brady was kind of the heart of that, the guy who constantly took less, which made it easier to say to anybody else who's trying to get more, who do you think you are, Tom Brady? You're never going to have a guy like that, and if you do, how long are you going to have him? 3 years? He's going to go to the NFL.
100%. Like Tom Brady made the whole thing work. And I remember watching Brady, just a few times in his career, only a few times where I'm talking about in his prime, not at the end where he was begging for a contract and Belichick wouldn't give it to him, and that led to the divorce. But Brady, early in his career, whenever there was a contract negotiation, I would just say to myself, why is this even a negotiation? He's Tom Brady. He's the only Patriot who would get public sentiment, who would have the public on his side if he said, I'm not showing up for minicamp. I'm not showing up for a single thing until you make me the highest paid quarterback in football. But he never did it. He played the game. He bought into the often mythical Patriot way, and he played ball with them. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen in college football with anybody. He's going to find a great player, they're going to say, we know you got a great NIL situation at North Carolina. How much money can you give me? What's my package? Because if you don't give me a good package, I'll go to Michigan, I'll go to Ohio State, I'll go to Alabama. What do you got for me? And it's going to be hard for him. He's an economist to his core. That was his major in college, and that's who Bill Belichick is. He really can look at the puzzle. He loves salary cap dynamics. He's like going in there and like, hey, I'm not going to pay this percentage to this guy. You know, I got a guy who's about, if we're talking about Madden scores, I got a guy who's a 75 in Madden, and I got a guy who's an 85. But the guy with the 85, he makes 30% more than the 75. No, I'll coach up the 75 and I'll move on from the 85. Like, he would do that stuff all the time. He loved it. I just don't think you can do that now in college football. The stars generally are going to cost you, and you're not going to get any kind of deal or discount or, hey, I'm Bill Belichick and I just always wanted to play for Bill Belichick. No, this is high stakes. It's a high stakes game in college, and blue chippers are going to cost you.
Hey, a lot of these guys he's going to be recruiting were 11 or 12 years old the last time he won a Super Bowl. There's going to be guys who don't know who he is, right? Especially by next year, the year after. Now, they'll know who he is because of this arrival at college football, but you're not dealing with guys who are going to be, for the most part, in awe of him. Their parents might be, but they won't be. And Belichick, where I think he's got an edge, he is the ultimate. Remember board games? Do they still have board games? When you would get a board game.
I got a few
when you would get a board game, you had that cardboard box. You know that great thick cardboard box that never came off easily. You kind of had to wedge it, and then it would come off, and you'd turn it over. And what's on the inside of that cardboard box? The instructions. Belichick strikes me as a guy who always was good at looking at the instructions on the inside of the lid of a board game and figuring out instantly how to make those instructions and those rules work to his advantage. Where can I identify a little gray area that maybe I'll take advantage of? Where am I going to be weak? Where am I going to be strong? How do I master this full set of instructions and directions to get to where I'm trying to go? I don't know that it's going to be enough, because at the end of the day, you're going to have some of the players who start off with a hell of a lot more money than you do. What was it when you played Monopoly? You had $500, right? There's going to be some that have $5,000, and you're going to have $500. And you're going to have to work that game knowing that there's going to be that built-in disadvantage. But if anybody can figure it out, it's him.
Yeah, there's some, on Monopoly, there's some North Carolina properties. I think North Carolina is one of them. But I always lost at Monopoly. Why? Because I couldn't get Boardwalk and Park Place. Those are the ones you get. But those are your blue chippers. You can collect all those smaller properties and pay $60 for this one, the St. Charles's and all that stuff in Connecticut. But
Baltic,
you got to get Boardwalk
right?
And Park Place to win the game. And here's the other thing. Did you hear Tom Brady doing his impression of Belichick recruiting a kid? And he was joking, but not really joking. I guess that he did this whole thing of like, yeah, I guess you can play. We'll see. Come to North Carolina. And he's joking around, but there's truth in a lot of jokes. And Rodney could tell this story too. I forgot to tell this story to Rodney. When I first met Rodney, he was wearing shorts in the middle of winter in New England because they stopped him from going to, I think he had come from L.A. or maybe he had come from San Diego and he had taken a flight somewhere and they redirected him. So he had warm weather clothing on in the dead of winter in New England, or what feels like winter in New England. March is pretty much winter. And they were recruiting Rodney Harrison, and part of the recruiting pitch, the recruiting dinner, was at the ground round. Peanuts on the floor. It's just like, this is what we do. We're not taking you to any high end. It's not the Capitol Grill. We're not going to massage your ego. Yeah, we think you're a good player. We think we got a good program. You want to come here or not? He's going to need a couple of lieutenants who just go above and beyond to close the deal, because that's just not in his nature.
Yeah, no, you're right. And he will take the time to get the guys that he wants. There he is. Thornton Mellon, a.k.a. Bill Belichick, going back to school. Well done, EJ. He's going to need that. And, I'm curious, Michael, we need to move on to other topics, but we could talk about this. There's so many things to unpack here. It's so fascinating to me. Who all is he going to bring? We already know Mike Lombardi is going to go be the GM of the program. I'm waiting to hear the other names. Will, from a coaching standpoint, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, Josh McDaniels, go. When you talk about, and I said this yesterday, mark my words, Jack Easterby's going to end up there because he's the guy who can glad hand with the family members and make everybody feel good, right? You need somebody like that when the parents call. You need somebody that you can divert them to who will be able to convince them they really don't want to talk to Bill Belichick. Talking to Jack is enough. So there's got to be somebody like that, whether it's Easterby or somebody else. There's got to be somebody who can run interference when Bill's grinding film, getting game plans ready. He doesn't have to stop everything he's doing to spend however much time is necessary making an upset parent not upset. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.